Hello everyone, we're here in a very, very insightful, engaging conversation here at the Unity Church in Houston, Texas. I'm sitting with Reverend Karen, who's been engaging in this conversation for the past 10 to 15 minutes. She's very spiritually enlightened and awakened. I'm really excited to have her on our episode today. So right off the bat, we can just give a small introduction as to what the church is, what your role is here in the church, and how did this church come to fruition?
Wow, those are a lot of questions. So the first thing is I'm the senior associate minister here, and there are two other associate ministers, and our senior minister is Reverend Michael Gott. And my role is multidimensional. I have I'm over the counseling, our spiritual counseling department. I'm also over prayer ministry, as well as Wednesday night experience, which is our Wednesday night service. I platform and speak regularly. I teach classes. I'm also working with our Unity Women, which is a social group, and also have started a Spanish language service on Sundays, so I'm working with that team as well, and our Spanish ministry in general. So that's kind of the big overview, I'd say. This ministry has been in existence. We're actually about to celebrate our 100-year anniversary.
Centennial.
Actually, is that right? Or was it? Yes, it's 1918, so it's 100 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Next year. And so it's actually been in existence from a study group in the Heights on Rutland, I think, street. And it was just started by a woman who'd had experience of it from our home, the place where our founders lived and where our headquarters is a Unity Village in Kansas City, just really outside of Kansas City, southeast, and at Unity Village, Missouri. And it's a teaching that has really come through the transcendental movement. So it was actually started in the 19th century, and it really kind of modeled and was collaborative with Christian science as well as religious science, and all of those modalities of understanding there's one God, there's one energy, one universe, and that the ancient wisdom that is in all mystical traditions, of all traditions, is really closest to the unifying truth of universal truth. And so we felt that that actually universal truth has been expressed through many different faith traditions, models, cultures, the needs of the time and how they developed, and yet their sort of root water underneath the surface is actually the mystical tradition. And that's what I would say is the lifeblood of our spiritual nature, of our spirituality. And it's probably the thing that gives us the most juice, the most connection, the most emotional needs. And it's also where healing arises from. And so Unity seeks to be that out of the Christian tradition, but really recognizing we use the Bible, we understand, but yet we also recognize the truth in all traditions and practice some of their spiritual practices, because human spirituality is universal, and whatever methods or ways of getting to an experience of the divine that works in any tradition works according to the predilections of the individual, of whatever floats your boat, whatever helps you to feel a little bit more connected to something other than yourself.
So it's kind of like many rivers flow into one ocean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and there's many different ways of tackling that truth.
Right.
But the basis of it is engaging, self-reflecting,
right,
in a mystical, spiritual tradition.
True.
I would love to hear where your spiritual pathway has led you up until this point.
My spiritual pathway. I was raised Catholic,
Okay.
very, very, very Catholic. And I was, even as a child, I grew up in the Catholic Church, but also Catholic school. So as I was growing up, I was probably about 7, 8, and I walked around telling everybody when I grew up I was going to be a priest. And they all smiled and patted me on the head and said, well, little girls don't grow up to be priests. They grow up to be nuns. And I'd seen what the nuns did because they were my teachers in school, and I saw what the priest did, and I wanted his job. I said, no, that's what I want to do. And they would laugh and, tease me and all of that. And so I stopped talking about it. And what I did with that was I had already seen a lot of change because I grew up I was born in 1955. So in the 60s, okay, I'd already seen a lot of changes in the Catholic Church that I didn't have the perspective to know how revolutionary that was. I just took it in stride to say, well, look how much they changed, here. Change is just part of the deal as far as I thought. Yeah. And so I said, they don't let girls grow up to be priests now, but when I grow up, they will, because that's 20 years away. That's what I thought. So I didn't think about it anymore. I tucked it away, and I went on a path to science and math, and I became a laboratory technologist in a hospital. And I married a man who was in addiction, and it came to crisis early in our marriage, like within a few months. Wow. So we immediately, luckily, blessedly got treatment, and it was family treatment. So while I didn't think I had any problems, right? I was a practicing Catholic at the time. I'm the good one. It's his problem. How can I help keep him, from using? And in the process of me learning about addiction and what my role is, I also went into my family of origin work where my father was an alcoholic, no surprise, that I'd learned the techniques for being a good codependent. So I really looked at all my codependency, and I spent 2-3 years. I went to 12-step groups, and I really just immersed myself. So I used 12-step and therapy, all forms of different kinds of therapy, cognitive behavioral, mostly grief resolution therapy, which was really effective. And then later on, I was actually using modalities like breath work to really get past all of the the mental construct into the emotions, and really being able to heal at a deep place. Yeah. And really made peace with my father, who had passed years before my husband. I met my husband. And I now have a relationship with my father that I never had when he was alive. Mm. I don't know how to say it any other way. It's like I feel all of the love and pride that I wanted from him and that I searched from other people. I now feel instantly by thinking of him, like he's right here, right now, big pink cloud.
It's beautiful.
And he just loves me.
You have to tap into it.
Exactly.
To experience
and it's that it can be with me. And so I no longer search for that. I know I have it. Isn't that funny? It has to come from, like it's been, because I receive it now. That's the thing. I had set it up because he didn't give it to me the way I wanted. And so I searched for it the way I wanted it out here, but I could, of course, never find it. The healing had to happen. And in the healing of that, I then learned that all along he was always loving me, always pride. I couldn't accept it. And so when I was willing to accept it, I now receive it. I no longer search for it. And my Father's restored to me.
There's all these different channels that we block ourselves off from sometimes, don't you think?
Yeah, agreed.
And so a lot of it is a matter of, I like to look at it as breaking one's ego, and you see that in lots of traditions. So you have the concept of Maya in Buddhism.
Right.
In Sufism, you have this concept of the hijab, which is the veil that we put over our eyes. And it's through a process of humility and, through these practices that we can engage in. Like breathing is a very, very simple one that we use in therapy.
Absolutely.
How to regulate your emotions, because a lot of people, anger has a tendency to really envelop you, and all you can see is red. But if you can learn ways to regulate these emotions and to let yourself control your mind, not let your mind control you, you can start tapping into these channels, and you can feel the presence of other beings who may have passed. But they're always there, because it's just a matter of illusion. We just can't see it.
Right.
Because we tend to live on this material plane, but there are many, many, many layers.
Absolutely.
Metaphysical layers that may not be apparent to the senses, but they're there. Mm-hmm. So I would love to hear what spirituality, and I know you talked a bit about mysticism. What does spirituality and mysticism mean to you?
What does it mean to me? It's my lifeblood, and I think it is for all of us. I think our spiritual nature, is not on Sunday mornings. if you're a traditional Christian, it's not on Friday nights or Saturdays. It's actually always available to us, and it is actually the field of infinite wisdom. It is the field through which infinite good can come through to us. Every need is fulfilled in that place. The rich abundance of everything that's possible is available to us as we recognize its presence and seek it, ask for it, open to it. Just like I couldn't receive my Father's love until I was ready to receive it the way it was coming. Do you know what I'm saying? So in the same way, I think our spiritual nature is underlying every other aspect of us. And this is a beautiful machine, and I'm saying it as if it were contained in my brain, which I know my mind is non-local, and I know it's not. But it's a powerful organ, and it's a powerful process that we have. But it was never meant to be in charge. I think it was always meant to be in service to the heart. Oh, and I think the heart is the portal to all that's true and real. And in any given moment, if I am confused about, is this right, is this what, when all this thinking, if I will just remember to wake up from that and drop down here, right here, I will know the GPS system in my own heart will be able to say peace or stress, peace or freedom. I mean, wherever I can feel that then I know this is the right way. And then if I say this is the way I'm going to go here, then I'm going to put this to work and say, well, okay, if this is where we're going, first thing I do is Google this, call my friend, find out this. That's what this is for. This is not meant to be the decider.
This facilitates the emotion.
This serves. Okay. This is to help me navigate in the 3D world, whatever it is I need to do to bring this into fruition. And this should never be the decider. This should always be in service to. And so when you say breaking open the ego, of course it is, but and the reflection, all of that. But that's where whatever we can do, the breath is the fastest way to move from here to here. And then sit with this and bring our focus here and just be here. That's what real meditation is. That's what centering is. That's what mindfulness is. It's everything that would take us out of this and drop down into what an author, Martha Beck, wrote this great book. Really helped me, Finding Your Way in the Wild New World. And what she talks about is wordlessness and dropping out of the thought of editing and narrating and talking and back and forth, and just drop down here to where there's a place where there's no words. And you just be in this experience.
Place of Zen.
Yes, of just feeling like, and when you do that, it's like right now, even though I know there's a wall behind me, I feel like there's a 360 feeling. Mm-hmm. Like I can feel behind me and around me. I'm taking in, I pass this wall into the parking lot. I can sense the birds. I mean, I can really, yes, you can say it's your imagination. I know I can go there too, but in the moment, I'm not up here. I'm down here, and this is what's out here. This is what's sensing. This is what's sensing. I'm sensing from out here, underneath my chin, out here, and it's here that everything is okay. Everything's at peace. There's nothing to worry about.
I don't think it's far-fetched at all, because consciousness can live without just the neurological components of the brain. We see that in near-death experiences.
That's true.
We see that in lots of literature that people have had experiences where they're clinically dead for 10, 20 minutes, but they have memories and experiences, and also lots of the time they come out of these experiences with a drastic change in who they are, because they experience love and they experience infinite mercy.
Exactly.
And they experience truth. And they've done longitudinal studies where people who've had near-death experiences, they follow them 8 years down the line, and they're still loving, and they're not putting materialism as their main priority. They've seen God, or they've seen the universe, they've seen creation for what it is, and they know that it's truth and it's love. And for them to tap into that, what they saw when they were clinically dead for 20 minutes, they need to bring the love and the compassion in the here and now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that they also get realigned with a purpose. they suddenly, a lot of times they come back and they know what they're here for, or how they're supposed to be living and what they're supposed to tell people. I mean, that they actually come back with that mission of some sort to bring, if it's nothing else, but to relax and enjoy their life. But they also model that, and they also bring all that love and compassion. And that's one of the hallmarks. It's so funny you should say that, because in ministerial school, I chose, you know how there's the curriculum that they give you, but then there's the real curriculum that you're actually living all the time, where books fall off the shelf, etc.
I'm going through that right now.
So what I did as my side curriculum was I studied every near-death experience I could find, and did a lot of research around those different books. Now, we're talking 1992, 93, so, it didn't really have the internet exactly available at that point for me to really do it properly, but I did every book that I could read, and I read with this idea, because I came out of science also, so I was trying to just get past, because I'd heard all these theories about, it's just a blip, it's chemicals in your mind.
Button that you can
right. There's just chemical brain matter, whatever, that was causing that experience. But I wanted to see the reproducibility of the light, of the being. There are certain characteristics that always happen, very often happen, 90% of the time, and that when they come back, as you say, there's a personality change. It isn't just, I had a dream and I woke up and now I have a new idea. It's like, no, I have a new idea about me. I have a new idea about what life is. I have a new idea about why I'm here. I mean, there's a change in how they reconnect with everything. And that to me was very telling. I said something, I couldn't get past, spiritually I wanted to lean that direction, but scientifically I had to say, that's incontrovertible. You have to look at that and know something meaningful has happened. And it's a positive thing. It rarely, less than 0.1% has it ever had negative influence. Probably somebody with a mental issue of some sort. But really, people come back completely, and a lot of times their bodies have healed and become whole, even if they were at the near death because of cancer or whatever. And so all of these things have really told me that over time there's something to be said for that, and that experience is a real experience. And if that's the case, then what it tells me is that there's a whole new way of being once you get to the other side, of things that you can continue to learn and grow through, and that people continue to exist there. Therefore, they're also possible to be influencing us and to be called into, with our free will, into asking for their support, asking for their love, asking for their guidance in it. My father, case in point, I can ask for my father for his love and for his guidance, and I feel that he's with me. He is more powerful for me now than he would be if he were 80 years old, 85 years old. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's more powerfully real to me.
I think it's one of the articles, which I can link to on the bottom of the description, that I read, talked about how a lot of these people who've had near-death experiences, they didn't want to come back, because even though they had a beautiful family, all of the things that you would assume and hypothesize that people need for a meaningful, happy life, a beautiful partner, kids, a good career, all of these things, right across the board that satisfy our material needs. Yet a lot of them still didn't want to come back, because they found this infinite love and this infinite, and I think that term is like really hard for us to comprehend as humans. Infinite love and compassion and grace. Who wouldn't want to come back from that? But for me, it's what I see in that is that they orient themselves in a positive manner, because to them that becomes the truth.
Exactly.
It makes no sense getting angry at someone driving down the street, because it's a fleeting emotion.
Exactly right.
It doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever, and actually it serves a detrimental purpose, because studies have shown that anger affects your neuronal brain matter. You get a shorter lifespan. Who would want these things if you're looking at it? Whereas compassion and positivity and love only bring you closer to your family. Even if you're looking at it, even if you're watching this and you don't believe in a transcendental reality, just those things, just in a purely material sense, bring you closer to your family, give you better affect, give you more, opportunities in life. But then it's like, wow, you can put a whole layer of transcendental truth on top of that, and you're constantly going through a process of prayer, self-reflection, to bring yourself more compassion, more humility, more piety, and from that, you reach a sense of enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. You reach divine truth. You reach self-actualization.
Right.
And all of these different concepts.
But you put your finger on an important point. I think a lot of our religious tradition has valued those qualities as as almost like tasks to be checked off.
Yeah.
Become more humble, become more compassionate. It's like, okay, it's like it always felt to me like I was trying to force myself into a mold of goodness, like I had to become better and good, and that it was a strict, rigorous discipline that I had to do. And I want to offer that what I think near-death experiencers really come back with is it is not forced, it's not hard, it's easy. It's like falling back into something that is actually already true, that we already know, that we have been culturally, restricted in a way, or taught that those things are things that we have to be aspirational towards, but in fact we already are those things. And that the reason that somebody's on the other side in this bliss, and that they could be willing not to come back to live the life that they lived, even though all their family and their loved ones are there, is because at this state they do not feel the separation from them. So they actually have their family and the experience of being connected to them, let me say that, even if they're not living the life. That's why it's hard to decide to come back, and why they come back with mission. And that then it becomes so much easier to see what anger does to this blissful state. It sends these ripples of energy, of disruption, and it separates them from that blissful state that they still remember. So they have a greater capacity to access it in living moment, and so they don't bother to get angry because of the things that you're saying. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's a different way of doing the things we think of as being good, but it's actually our nature to be that when we've been retaught how to access the goodness that is already available to us, and do that more of the time, and get less focused and constricted in this part of our, letting this stuff run us. I'm sorry, I ran off on a tangent there.
That was beautiful. That was, I think, one of the things that you touched upon there was, for me, I always had a disconnect between, what purpose does religion serve, and, because I found spiritual truth and, the attainment of spiritual truth to be, something that I could reach. But for me, when I was searching in my adolescence, what purpose does religion serve? And I think for me, it's, people need some sort of structure in their life. We need that, whether that be, giving yourself 10 minutes to go to half an hour at the gym. You need to really, push yourself to do that, giving yourself dietary regime or something like that. For me, I look at religion as the language of spirituality, and, giving people weekly, daily habits to form, so that, that increase in spirituality is incremental and it works, because spirituality can exist without religion, but I think for many people it can't, because it's such an abstract and unconventional manner that we're not used to. We're used to thinking with our minds and with our five senses. And sometimes we need those traditions, and those religious traditions really help breathe life into that mystical experience.
That's true, and they can be the doors to opening to that experience, because it's tried and true, and there's many people who've gone through those doors, who've gone there. So that's also a great way to remember it, that those are the things that condition us into expecting a spiritual experience, or set us up to reach beyond the 3D world and our five senses, and move to a place of the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, or however you want to think of it, whatever, another place that we visit in our dreams, that we go in our daydreams, that we're showering, and all of a sudden the answer to that difficult problem just falls into place. We just suddenly, when our minds are relaxed, they're more open, and suddenly we get the insight. well, where did we get it from? You know, it wasn't our thought process anymore. Now it's tapped into some other field, right?
We have fleeting glimpses of it. I think that's one of the really powerful things that music serves. And a lot of people use music as just like, I need harmony, I need that order and just that rhythm and just that perfect alignment of, you know, it gives them spirituality. People have mystical experience. I know because I worked security for concerts for 5 years. So people would, you know, I would look at people in the front row and they'd be having like revival and they'd be having tears in their eyes and they would talk to me afterwards and they would say, you know, this is like one of the most powerful experiences that I've had. And, you know, I think spirituality really answers that because it says that experience, that's a 2-hour Bon Jovi concert, that's across the board. You can have that always and forever, and who wouldn't want that? You know, that's so beautiful to me.
True,
Yeah.
exactly right. And we're tuned because we are vibrational beings.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right. Music really can accent. It's another doorway. It's another way for us to use this our physical being to really access something that is deeply connected to our souls. And it just depends. We're all made differently. We all have, you know, different doorways, different ways of being played. Some people are very intellectual. Some people are very sensual. You know, musical. All of those various ways that we can come into the fullness of our own authenticity. As we come into our own authentic pathways and our own authentic, the things that ring our bells, the things that really do speak to us at a depth, that we give ourselves full permission to be surrendered to that. In some ways, that's a doorway to the divine. And that's why people can see art, create art, no matter what form it takes, and be moved by it, by poetry, by sound, by experience of being in a waterfall or by a waterfall or anything that really just takes us to another place.
It envelops the senses.
Yes.
So the last thing that I would love to hear from you is, for the people watching, what's one practical spiritual takeaway that they can implement into their lives to bring some harmony from your experiences? If you can share that with us.
Absolutely. I really love the simplicity of the breath. Okay. It is used in all traditions, and as I begin a prayer, anytime I offer prayer or invite people to pray with me, I always say, okay, I try to connect, sometimes hold their hands and just say, take a breath. And so let's do it right now. And the magic number is 3, so do it 3 times. And one more time. And allow your mind, your focus to just fall back into this zone, into your heart. And in this place, in that field, you can feel right there in that heart center the peace that passes all understanding that's always been there, underneath everything else that's happening. And even when things around you are not good, chaotic, peace is right there. You are always at peace. And from that, your guidance will arise. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend Karen. It's a beautiful conversation you and I just had. If people want to reach out to the church, is there a website that they can reach?
Yes, unityhouston.org.
Unityhouston.org. Thank you so much, Karen.
You're so welcome. Wonderful to meet you, sir.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Hit subscribe, support the channel. Lots of more conversations to come. I love the immediate benefits of meditation. And really, really, right now I'm just already just like I had to shake myself out of it, because it's like just meditation just really, really helps you tap into that internal self that's so often ignored. We don't give ourselves even 5 minutes to just breathe sometimes.
Exactly
it's just the mind is always just like, what's going on tomorrow? What happened yesterday? What are the things happening today? It's just like, wow, just give yourself 5 minutes a day.
And that shows your practice, because the more you practice it, the easier, the quicker, the more fully you get there.
Exactly. And,
So that's in front of you.
We do meditations at the university sometimes. Well, we do them every day. I can probably invite you to some of those. So we hold meditations, and a lot of people find it difficult because it's like, am I supposed to not think? What am I doing?
You're right. What do I do? Right.
What do I do? What do I do? What do I do right now? And I think a lot of it goes back to what you said. Switch the mind off and just feel with your heart. Feel those immediate emotions that are coming. Are you sad right now? Feel that sadness. That's fine. Are you feeling bored right now? Feel that boredom.
Right.
How does that feel in your body? How does that feel in your neck? How does that feel in your face? Just give yourself a moment to adjust to these emotions.
Smell the air.
Smell the air. Hear the fan. Hear this beautiful, like, ancient Irish music that's like so awesome right now. Hopefully you guys can hear that.
And I'd also want to say that in our tradition as well, we not only have a talk in our service, but we always have meditation. So meditation is part of our regular services. We have meditation time, half hour every week, Monday through Friday, from noon to 12:30 in our chapel. And meditation is very much a part of our unity practice because of that universal idea that really we're only reaching out to everything that is, to all, to one good, to one power. That's all that we feel. There's nothing that opposes God. Everything is everything that's good and powerful. As we open to that, we receive, and so we can sit calmly in that quiet and just really revel in that and feel it and bring it.
Bring it. That's all it is. Just bring it in the here and now.
Exactly right. That's our purpose.
Thank you so much, Karen. I look forward to future conversations, and even I would love to come here.
I would love to have you
I
here.
would love it. Thank you so much once again.
Great to have you here, Zion.
Bye-bye, guys.